My name is Joe Sordell. I'm the board attorney. I am calling the meeting to order as the board needs to elect a new chairman. So to start, would we salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of the meeting of the Old Bridge Township Planning Board has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of the meeting by prominently posting in the municipal complex an announcement given the time, date, location, and agenda of this meeting, mailing such announcement to the Home News Tribune, and filing such announcement with the municipal clerk.
And can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Cannon?
Here.
Mr. Lenning?
Here.
Mr. Romakis is absent. Mr. De Palma?
Here.
Mr. Lauer?
Here.
Mr. Renna?
Here.
Mr. Petty?
Here.
Mr. McIsaac?
Here.
Mr. Brennan?
Yeah.
Mr. Ferrara?
Here.
And Ms. Savant.
Here.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to the appointment of a chair. Do we have any nominations for members of the board for position of chair of the planning board?
Nominate Barbara Cannon.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, are there any other nominations? If none, can we please have a roll call?
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renna?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Mr. McIsaac?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
And Ms. Cannon.
Thank you.
I turn it over to the new chair.
Okay, we will now have nominations for vice chair. Do we have any nominations? Nominate Ed Lauer. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call?
Ms. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renna?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Mr. McIsaac?
Yes.
And Mr. Brennan.
Yes.
Okay. You're on, Eddie.
Congratulations.
Okay, we have the minutes of, should I do each of these individually? Okay. We have the minutes for the July 10th, 2023 meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded, roll call?
Hold on. Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Petty?
Yes.
Mr. McIsaac?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
And Ms. Cannon.
Yes. Okay, minutes of the July 27th, 2023 meeting. Can I have a motion?
Move it. Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
That was Lauer first, Lenning second. Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renna?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Mr. McIsaac?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
And Ms. Cannon.
Yes. Minutes of the August 24th, 2023 meeting. Motion?
Move it.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renna?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Mr. McIsaac?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Ms. Cannon.
Yes. And minutes of the September 28th, 2023 meeting.
Move it.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renna?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Mr. McIsaac?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
And Ms. Cannon.
Yes. Okay, then we have the 2024 Planning Board calendar. Does anybody have any comments or questions regarding that?
Chairman, I looked over on my calendar at home for 24. I didn't see any problem with any of the dates at all.
Anybody else have any? Okay, then so do I have a motion to approve the
I'll move it.
2020 Planning Board calendar?
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. Romakis? Not here.
He's not here.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
And Ms. Cannon.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, we have two applications on tonight, and I'm going to switch the order because we're going to take the application 44-2021P, BOE Route 9 Land LLC, Segby Old Bridge GC LLC, because this is an application that's been approved, but it's just, we need to amend it because of some new information that's come to light. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, Mark Policastro. We have a brief presentation this evening, super brief, if we have it our way. Mr. Gersberg, please state your name for the record.
From Gersberg. Mr. Gersberg, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
It is.
Thank you.
And just for the record, super quickly, your role in this application.
I'm the owner of the company that is applying.
Great, go ahead.
I apologize for being here. We thought we were done with one of the sites. Unfortunately, we had a a disagreement with the DEP on the categorization of a wetland, and instead of fighting or disagreeing, we figured we'd just make our warehouse smaller. So this is a application to reduce the size of our warehouse, which will impact traffic less. In other words, we will have less trips generated. We will have a smaller warehouse by approximately 130,000 square feet to approximately 800,000 from 930,000, approximately 940,000. And it will allow for a little bit more open space and will not affect circulation. It will not affect the access. Is the old Bridge Route 9 Board of Ed site, so the old parking lot for the, if you recall, off of Jake Brown and Route 9. There's the Board of Ed Education. We bought the property, and that building is going to be a warehouse over there on that side. Just to quickly brief you on some of the improvements, I hope everyone knows, we opened the golf course, and that was hopefully a nice amenity. We're in the middle of working on all the traffic and improvements to the roads. One of the things that's necessary is this approval in order to repave and redo Route 9 and Jake Brown. We're going to extend it and realign it. We're also meeting with the DEP to try to complete the master plan, which is to move or to create a road from Route 9 all the way to White Oak, and then eventually meet up with what's called the Jake Brown extension. All these amenities all these improvements of the Old Bridge Route 9 BOE. We're also agreeing, it's important, we have to give a electric charging station per this application, and we are working with the town to decide where they want to put it, so it'll be, that's part of this application. There's a possibility they may want a payment in lieu, which is fine with us, to do it so that it's just easier and a comprehensive.
Either way would work.
Either way works for us. And generally, I just want to be clear, this is, again, less impact, less warehouse. Today, we have our engineer here, Tung To from Bowler, who will present. We also have a planner. We are not going to present unless the board asks us to. Traffic and I'm missing.
Architecture.
And architecture, that's the same. Unless the board wants, we have them here. But because it's obviously less trips and was already approved for more trips, less square footage, they're here. Otherwise, we'll try to make this the quickest 800,000 square footer ever approved in the state of New Jersey, unless the board would like to delve into it deeper. If you have any questions for me, I'm around, I'm here, and available. And I appreciate this board hearing us again. I know that you did not want to see my face again for a while.
Okay, we'll start with Vina, our planner. Did you have any comments, or?
I don't. Rakesh?
Any questions regarding engineering or traffic?
I don't have any questions, Madam Chair.
Great.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have any comments or questions? Okay.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Madam Chair, we do have to open up to the public for any
Oh, I'm
questions of
sorry,
each witness.
yes. I apologize. Okay, is there anyone from the public here that would like to, has any questions or comments? Okay, seeing no hands, so close the public portion.
Now, all of a sudden, you don't know how it works, Ephraim, right?
Well, in fairness, I think all of our other applications were in virtual, so it was a lot easier.
Right. Mr. Lamb? Yes. Please state your name for the record.
First name is Tungto, Tungto. Last name Lam, Lam.
Well, actually, let me swear him in first.
Sorry.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm this testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And your credentials, Mr. Lamb?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree from Rochester Institute of Technology in Civil Engineering Technology. I'm a PhD candidate at Rutgers for Civil Environmental Engineering. I'm a licensed professional in the state of New Jersey and the surrounding states.
We'll accept your
Thank you.
credentials.
Please proceed.
Yeah, just business address is 30 Independence Boulevard, Suite 201, New Jersey, from the firm Boulder Engineering. We're the site civil engineer for this project. We've been before the board on the other application and the prior application. And as noted by Ephraim and as noted by your review letter, page 2, that basically provides a summary. And I have a site plan rendering in front. C-301 in your package. The only difference is we turned on the aerial, which is current condition. As you can see, the Glenwood Golf Course is under construction. And then we have colorized it and add in the landscaping just for presentation purpose. And we'll mark this as A1.
A1. The revision date, please, Mr. Lamb?
A1 with a date of October 26, 2023. East is to the bottom of the page. And the only difference you see in this layout versus the prior Board of Education warehouse is the prior building was a rectangle and now it's just an L shape. We took out a notch because of discussion with DEP. They want us to preserve 2 of the there's some minor modification to the site. Driveway, identical. There hasn't been any movements to it. And just for some facts and figures, the warehouse previously was 9,447 and 60 square feet. Is currently 808,510 square feet. It's a delta reduction of 138,550 square feet. We have reduced the size of the office from 20,000 to 10,000, so it's a 10,000 reduction on that. The number of loading docks on the warehouse was previously 166, previously approved, and is now currently 130. It's a 36 dock reduction, and that's from the L shape of the building. The drive-in ramps are still no change. 4 corners of the building, we still have 4 ramps. The number was previously approved for 126 and is currently proposed at 115, 11 trailer spaces reduction. We previously had 126 trailer spaces that were being banked. Basically, they're not being proposed. They're being proposed but not constructed from day one, and if necessary, they'll be constructed. We're reducing that number from 126 to 92, so that's a 34 loading space. The trailer spaces reduction. Parking spaces went from 430 to 424, so that's a 10 space reduction. The EV charger we kept the same. It was previously approved for 20 EVs on this project, and we will still provide the 20 EVs for this amended application. All in all, this is a 6% green space addition back to the project, so that's the highlight of the project. But all in all, this is as simple.
Great, thank you.
Anybody have any questions regarding the testimony?
T, can you explain that gray portion, the wetland that is within the property? Can you explain to the board because they have questions?
Yes, it was identified by NJDEP, those two wetlands at the L-shaped portion of the building.
Not that one, the one within the building. Inside the building, right there, yes.
There was an isolated wetland identified by DEP, and we have the permits already to fill that wetland.
So the DEP is allowing that. It's on top of it.
Yes,
DEP gave approval to.
correct. We have all DEP permit at this point. We have county approval, we have soil conservation district approval. Short of amended site plan from this board, we're shovel ready.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Jared,
Yes.
I have a question. Mr. Lamb, the notched out area that's in green, that was the problem with DEP?
Yes, DEP wanted us to preserve this wetland that's in the L-shaped portion of the building, and also the westerly property corner of the building. There's another pocket of wetland.
Okay.
Those are two pockets of wetland that DEP asked us to preserve, and as part of preserving that, they gave us a permit to fill the wetland that you see in the middle of the building.
Okay. My other question is, could you point on the map where that firehouse, a little bit? Could you point on the map where it's actually located?
Sorry, firehouse?
I thought you said something about,
No.
oh, there wasn't a notched out area?
No,
For the
we
fi-
notch out this building.
Oh, just that, okay.
Just that. That's
Okay.
it.
I misunderstood, I'm sorry.
Okay. Did you have anything?
So I think if there are questions about the wetlands, the DEP permits a filling of certain amount of wetlands and certain quality of wetlands. So and I'm just reiterating what Mr. Lamb said, but just to really concur with what he said, is that when the applicant submitted to DEP, there were certain wetlands that were permitted to be filled, and when they reached that limit, based off of, the quality of the wetlands, you're not allowed to fill certain wetlands. So that's why those areas were excluded, because the DEP basically determined that those wetlands were not able to be filled.
To us, it just looks peculiar that they would not permit building in that area. Obviously, further north of it or west of it, it was okay, but they did permit extending the roadway beyond it. However, that's their ruling, so.
Yeah, we disagree with them, but in the
Sometimes
interest of
don't try to
time,
understand.
We just want to move forward.
But we can give the backup permits for that.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you.
Hold on, Barbara, just one question. So there's no other substantial changes to the
Just
pre-approved, the
notch.
one that I guess was approved back in December of 21, right? Yeah, 21. 21 or 22?
22, I
22?
believe, yeah.
The years, we're getting old. Forget when all these things are. So there's nothing except for the notch, and then
Correct.
That's right.
Okay. Alvina?
Mr. Lamb, I know at the last public hearing on BOE, right, the board had a lot of interest or questions on the roadway improvements. Could you just give them a brief overview of the status where you guys are at with White Oak Lane or with Jake Brown Road West? Because I'm sure the board is interested in knowing.
Yes, we have approximately a bi-weekly meeting with the township staff to go over progress, conceptually lay out horizontally, two-dimensional, three-dimensional, things like that. In addition to that, we have several DEP meeting. Regulation has recently changed as of July of this year, and we're incorporating that as part of the White Oak Lane extension because it crossed Tennant Brook, because that is under FEMA jurisdiction. Jake Brown Extensions is under DEP jurisdiction. There are two different studies, so we're trying to blend all that and incorporate that and get that in. And in addition, we're also working with Nicole, your township engineer, with the U.S. government under Nike parcel. We prepare exhibits on the subdivision and things of that nature, and Conceptually, we have gone to an agreement, so if and when they're ready for their formal signed seal documents, we'll prepare them and provide them to the township to coordinate with the U.S. government.
So, board members, just, I know that at the last meeting, Ms. Cannon had asked about the Nike site, and I just want to give an update that Nicole and I have been working with USGA. We have come quite far along in the process. They seem to be amicable to work with the township and give us the right of way. It's just that they have a multiple level process. It's chugging along, but it's at a snail pace. So we just have to be patient and keep pursuing it. But they are interested in working with the township.
Okay. Any other, Tracy?
The wetlands that are going to be filled, that's not something special for this project. That happens all over the state, right?
It's a general permit.
So it's just
it's
a
routine permit that they
standard
give.
thing that gets done on all these big projects?
Yeah, it's just based on math, so.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, I'll, open up to the public if there's anyone here that has any questions or comments. Seeing no hands, well,
Mr. Lamb.
oh,
It's our last witness.
the next contestant.
Justin Osceola, AUC, IE. Justin Osceola, AUC, IE, LLO.
And would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
And your credentials, please.
Sure. I'm a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey. I have a master's in planning from Rutgers University. I've appeared, think I've appeared at the planning board in the past, but I've appeared at the zoning board in Old Bridge on many occasions over the years. I've also worked on many applications involving warehouses, and I provided testimony at hundreds of planning and
We'll
zoning
accept
boards.
your
Thank you.
credentials.
You have some brief comments, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Please proceed.
I think from a planning standpoint, I think what's most salient here is the reduction of the warehouse size. The major planning benefit. Also, when you reduce the square footage of any building, in this instance, a warehouse, that leads to less parking required, less traffic, and more open space. I think those are all benefits that are part and parcel to this application. I don't believe there are any newly created variances that are associated with this application. So even though the planning proofs, the C1, C2 proofs are not required, I think overall, as I had just stated, there are significant planning benefits. Even though the first application was a great application in my opinion, this is even better. And as planners, we always strive to ensure that we have the best plan possible. So I think again with the reduction of the warehouse square foot, parking, less traffic, and I think overall this is a proposal that advances the intent of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Dina, did you have any comments?
Yes. My memo, page 6, has a list of deviations. I think there are 5 new deviations that were requested. However, we have met with the applicant's professionals. We were able to eliminate 2 of those deviations. So they're only asking for a deviation for the bicycle racks. They're asking for a deviation on the fascia sign. So it was actually something I requested because at some point White Oak Lane would be built. The property has frontage on 3 right-of-ways, and the ordinance allows them for 2 fascia signs or wall signs, but I think it's a good idea to ask for a 3rd fascia sign now so that they don't have to come back to the board, because otherwise it would be a deviation. So whether they have the 3rd sign or not, I actually asked them to request that variance. So that is one. And the last one is the compactors are accessory structures. Because accessory structures are not permitted within the front yard, they would need a variance, especially it's a technical variance because the side fronts on 3 streets. White Oak Lane is not built yet, but will be. So it's a technical variance, and I think I support all 3 variances.
Okay. Board have any comments or questions? Nope. Okay. Does the public have any questions or comments? Okay, seeing no questions or any comments, we'll just move along. Do you want to, unless the board has anything else to say, you want to just review?
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Chairman. Well, is there any closing statements?
Nothing
Yeah,
further.
do you?
All right, Madam Chair. Based on the presentation made this evening, a motion to approve would be granting the amended site plan approval. There was no specific conditions discussed. It would be granting, as Mr. Want had just identified, 3 deviations, variances. Racks, the third fascia sign, and the accessory structures in the front yard being the compactors. And aside from, in addition to the standard conditions that the board places on all approvals, but it sounds like a lot of those outside approvals have already been granted based upon the testimony that was presented this evening.
Joe, one of the conditions should be that the applicant will enter into an amended redevelopers agreement or financial agreement prior to final compliance plans. The applicant has agreed to pay in lieu of an EV charging station, which they were committed to do so. And any conditions of the previous approval that may apply to the site plan. And compliance with the review letters.
Yes, that's usually what I meant by the standard, but yes, absolutely. The compliance with all review letters, and as Ms. Sawant just summarized, those additional conditions.
Okay, if there's no other comments or questions from the board, do we have a motion?
I'll move it.
Sure.
We have this report from the fire department.
I think that,
We have this report from the Bureau of Fire Protection that it was unsatisfactory.
So,
We do have a response to that, if board's pleasure.
and I can counter response as well from the township side. So the applicant has been working with the fire marshal on, they have agreed to address all the questions. T, you can go through them in detail, actually. And I was copied on all communications, and that was acceptable to the fire marshal as well.
Yes.
Mr. Lamb, place that on the record, please.
We have a October 25th correspondence from Mr. Tom Miller after you issue his initial review letter about his certain items being unsatisfactory. We have resolved those items with him, and he wrote a email back to Vina and several others, basically indicating I am good with your response.
So that's satisfied.
And not, most of his comments had to be addressed during construction, so until we start construction, we can't address them. That's why he's not satisfied at the moment.
Thank you.
all right, Casey made, if there's any other questions, a second?
Second.
Seconded, thank you.
Who was it?
Call, please.
Ed?
Isaac.
Mr. Lenning?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Mr. McIsaac?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Cannon.
Yes,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you. Okay, the next application is 20-2023P, 341 Route 34 LLC, Centerstone, major preliminary and final site plan with C variances. Yes.
Good evening. Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Michael Lario. I'm an attorney at the firm of Nemad, Davis, and Goldstein. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, 341 RT 34 LLC, and Ethan Caravani. Preliminary and final major site plan approval, along with bulk variance relief in connection with the existing Park Plaza Shopping Center. As many of you may know, the Park Plaza Shopping Center has existed at this site for many years. We believe somewhere around 4 decades. It started to show its age somewhat in those 4 decades. As many on this board may be familiar with, shopping centers, particularly recently, have taken a new focus on architectural design, both of the buildings themselves, of the landscaping of the site, outdoor eating areas. That's what the modern shopping center looks like today. And what happens is some of these older shopping centers, like Park Plaza, they get aged even further when put in comparison to those new modern shopping centers. With this application, the applicant is seeking to bring the 21st century to update it both from a site operation perspective and from a visual, from an architectural perspective. Just for the record, the site itself, it's 343 New Jersey Route 34. It's block 3231, lot 17. It's approximately a 6-acre site. There's currently 2 buildings on it. There's an inline retail building and then 1 building located on an island within the parking lot. Approximately 20 tenant spaces are there within the existing site. The applicant purchased this property in May of 2022. Immediately upon purchasing the property, they did certain minor upgrades to the site, including additional landscaping, some patchwork with the drive aisles. This proposed plan, though, is really the culmination of what their vision is for this site. You'll hear testimony running through all the items that we're looking to improve this site with. The real big ones are a complete refacing and a resurfacing of the existing building frontages, the building facades. If you've driven by the site, you see it's pretty monotone colored. It has the red awning. There's really no breakup, no architectural design here. What the applicant is proposing is really architectural flourishes with the building itself. Different types of materials, different heights for the actual facade, again, to break it up, to provide some visual enhancement. They're also proposing 3 patio areas for the site, both on the ends of the larger building and then 1 on the island. 2 of those patio areas will have associated outdoor dining. The 3rd patio area will be a recreational space for the existing gym. In addition, the applicant is proposing 3 additional standard parking spaces, EV spaces, electric vehicle spaces, to meet the state requirements for this use. There's ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act improvements. There's additional landscaping that our professionals will run through. There's new signage being proposed. Really, and again, our professionals will show in greater detail, but this site, when finalized, is going to look and function like a new shopping center. There are a number of existing nonconformities relating to the site. We'll run through them. There are some minor variances, minor deviations that we're also seeking as part of this application. But really, from an operational standpoint, we're not proposing to expand the buildings in any way. We're not looking to change how deliveries are done. There's tenants there now. Those tenants are going to stay. It's really just a visual enhancement to this site is really what we're proposing. With me tonight, I have the project engineer, Callisto Burton, architect, John Montoro, and I have the representative of the applicant, Ethan Caravani. Now, Madam Chair, is it easier to swear them all in at once, or would you prefer to do it as they testify?
Yeah, we should just do it as they come up.
Absolutely fine.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and spell your last name for us.
Callisto Burton, Calisto, Burton, Bertin.
I think it's behind it. It's behind it, I think.
Sure.
So while he's flipping the plans over there,
Yeah,
if
it's my easel and he took it, so. Gotta duke it out here.
if you could you briefly provide your qualifications to the board?
Yes, I have a degree in for civil engineering from Villanova University, a master's degree in engineering from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. I've been licensed in New Jersey since the mid-'80s, probably early '80s, and I'm licensed in 5 other states. I'm the principal of Burton Engineering for over 30 years, and we do civil engineering and building design, so
Okay.
mechanical, structural, electrical.
We accept you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I've been here, but it's been a while.
So if you could, just briefly, could you explain your role in this application first to the board?
Yes, this application started out simply just to put in 3 patios. Okay, and one more page, if you could flip one more page. All right, so as that comes in,
For the record, just we'll identify this as A1.
Yeah, the site plan set originally dated September 12th, 2022. The plans that were submitted were revised July 7th, 2023. We were scheduled last month, and right before the meeting, we got a review letter. We thought we could try to address it. We have revised all the plans, but we didn't have time to submit it 10 days before. The plan I'll show you is an exhibit of our revised plan. So the plan that's up on the board is the site plan revised 10/20/23. Would you like me to hand these out if you want to flip through them? Yes. So what I'm handing out is an exhibit, I guess it's, okay, would be the site plan set, revised but not formally submitted, to address the comments we received in the review letters. All right.
Let's start with that revised plan.
Sure. So we're going to, and these, so the plans we're looking at are as an exhibit, revised October 20th, 2023. So as I mentioned, there's, there it is. We were planning on putting in 3 patios. So if you could see, the site plan isn't colored. Oh, if you use revision 2, it was revision 2. All right. Yeah, that's good. So we have 2 buildings on the site. The front building, and I'm sure you're aware, has the Dunkin' Donuts in it, and there's a back building. So on either side of the back building, and we're going to call it the north is up, so to the right is east, to the west is left. So we have two patios, one on either side of the rear building. We have a 900 or 1,200 square foot patio on the right side or the east, intended for the gym that's located there, so they can use it for outdoor exercising. That's a thing. On the west side or the left side, we have another patio that's 1,700 square feet, and the intention of that patio would be for outdoor seating should our client get a restaurant in that end cap space. The architect will show it has a capacity for 60 seats if it were used. And then behind behind the Dunkin' Donuts building, the smaller building in front, there's another patio of 975 square feet, which could also be used for outdoor seating. There's a takeout restaurant in the back of that building, maybe for Dunkin' Donuts as well.
That's on the island, correct?
On the island, yes, right. So that's what we proposing. We had some little bit of landscaping, and then we got the review letter. And we, many significant changes. So while we're here, there's, I'll start with the back of the site. In the rear of the site, along the back wall, okay, the site is 62,239 square feet. It's got frontage on Route 34 and frontage on Morristown Road, which is a county road. It's got 4 driveways. Nothing is changing with the driveways, so they're all movement access driveways that are there. The site is level with Route 34 and then starts to slope down as you move to the back, but it's several feet higher than Morristown Road, right, and especially in the middle. So the driveways to go out to Morristown Road dive down, right? So there's a retaining wall along that back wall, along the back property line. It is intended, the wall needs some help, so the intention is to replace that wall.
And that wasn't proposed as part of the original plan, but that was a comment that we received that it needed to be replaced.
No, the comment was review the wall. And when we looked at the wall, there was no question of what happened, what it needed to do. We looked at the wall. It wasn't built right to begin with. They didn't put enough dead men in, and had they, the wall would have been fine, but they didn't put enough dead men in, so the wall is starting to fail. And it's been propped up. Anyway, so we're along the back wall. We intend to replace it with a wall. Right now, we're intending to use a concrete wall. And instead of putting a fence on top of it, our client would like to use the wall, extend the wall up as the fence. So it would be 42 inches above the curb, except where we put the trash enclosures, because they're required to be 6 feet tall. So right now, there's dumpsters all along the back. There's dumpsters and there's waste cooking oil containers. I think I counted 5 dumpsters, one of them really big.
There's no designated area for that.
No, they're just in the back, in parking spaces. And the front building has to walk all the way, the tenants of the front building have to walk all the way to the back to deposit their trash. So along the wall, the rear wall, we're putting in 2 sets of trash enclosures. Each trash enclosure will have 2 dumpsters and facility for the waste cooking oil, right? Because that's recycled, right? And then up in the front, by the east driveway off of Route 34, we were proposing to put another double trash enclosure, and that would serve the building in front. As I said, right now they're walking in the back. These would be masonry enclosures, 6 feet high, right? The ones in the back are on a little bit of a sawtooth for access with the trucks, all right?
And a truck turning plan was prepared and submitted.
When I get to that part, right. Now, originally, we didn't add any landscaping. We were just putting in the pavers, and we had these as pervious pavers. So below the pavers is a gravel storage area, so we're retaining all the stormwater. So we're not increasing any stormwater runoff because of the patios. But since then, our landscape ratio was 0.13, and we brought it down to 0.12, which would exacerbate the variance, and it was suggested that we try to increase the amount of landscaping, so we've done that. And so we go around the site, and we've taken unnecessary asphalt away. On the back of the building, the long building in the back, on each end, there are loading zones which aren't used. We're going to shorten those and put parking on either to get more parking, and then the remaining area would be landscaped. The west parking lot, the west patio, there's areas there of unnecessary asphalt. We're going to take that out and put landscaping in there. We're going to rearrange the parking in that area. Moving to the other side of the building, yes, we found ways to put some landscaping in. There are a couple of small landscaped islands that come out into the parking lot. They were small, I don't know why, they're on an angle, and then we had striping on either side. It was suggested that we look into rebuilding those. So there are a couple places in the middle of the parking lot between the 2 buildings, and then along the frontage, we have a couple of areas where we're going to enlarge those landscaped islands.
Just to be clear, and I know you mentioned the landscaping will take an existing nonconformity for the landscape area ratio of 0.13 and increase it to 0.14.
Yes.
So it's a slight increase, but originally we were proposing an actual decrease to it, that since this plan revision, we've gone the other way with it, and we're able to provide more landscaping than exists right now.
Correct. We're taking the opportunity to rearrange the handicap parking spaces. I think when we said it's 4 decades old, I think it was 4 decades old 2 decades ago. So not all the 88 parking spaces are proper, so we're rearranging them, relocating them, and putting in new handicap ramps for that. Then we're putting in electric vehicle charging parking spaces. I guess I need a new battery. Along the Route 34 frontage, we put all the EV parking spaces there. In your ordinance, it's not Route 34, but other corridors, I think it was recommended that along the frontage. So it made sense, so we put all of them there. A center this size, we have 12 parking spaces that are required. You have to provide 5% of that, which would be 16. We're actually providing 17 because one of the spaces is a handicap space. So we have 17 EV parking spaces along the highway. If you could go 2 pages. One more. There you go. All right. So originally, this is the landscape and lighting plan, which is C2.4. And you'll see down in the front, there's a lot of dark circles that represent trees. All that is new. I mean, we also have the lighting patterns, but all new trees. So we started out with, 20 or 30 shrubs. Right, proposing 21 new trees and 200 shrubs, in addition to grasses and so forth. So we're doing extensive improvements to the landscaping, and especially along the frontage. The ordinance is 1 tree every 40 linear feet. Looks like over the years, some trees didn't survive, and so we're actually replacing those trees to make sure you have the 1 per 40, and then landscaping in between. The ordinance talks about a barrier, talks about a linear landscape row. We put landscaping in blocks between the trees, so if your professionals want to make a deviation, we're open to that. Our landscape architect liked what we did here. Also, for whatever reason, it looks like some of the area lights along Route 34 were missing, so we're adding 5 new area lights. The existing area lights are pretty tall, or maybe they're 20 feet tall. They were metal halide lamps, and they've all been retrofitted to LED lights, right? So this represents an LED pattern, and the new lights are different because we can't get those anymore. They don't make them big and bulky like that anymore with LED lights. So we have a different light, but it's all along the frontage, and I don't think it's going to look odd that we have 2 different types. Well, actually, there are 2 different types of lights there now. Adding a 3rd one, I don't think will look out of place.
And it will be consistent with the lighting requirement plans under the ordinance.
Yes. So it was pretty dark along the parking in front along Route 34, so we've taken care of that. Okay, so that's the bulk of the changes, and I mentioned we're going to replace the retaining wall. Also on this plan, you'll see truck path up there, and you can see how the garbage truck gets into the trash enclosure. All right. So the shopping center is 62,239 square feet and requires 5 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet, requires 311 parking spaces. And that's what we have. We have 312. With the little adjustments we did, even though we added landscaping, we were able to get a couple more parking spaces. So now we have 315 parking spaces. Your ordinance has a 3-to-1 credit for the EV parking spaces. So we're required to have 16. We have 17, but we're required to have 16. So we get credit for 32 parking spaces. You know, the one that's there and 2 more. So if we take the 115 parking spaces and add the 16 parking spaces, we wound up with 347 parking spaces. Right? Now, the outdoor parking, the outdoor seat, so we have 347, we're required to have 311. Okay, the outdoor seating, some people say it's seasonal. You don't really have to provide parking because if it's someone's going to a restaurant, they may sit outside rather than inside. And, it just depends. But if you did want to put a parking requirement on that seating, and we used the area of the two patios, as I said, one was 1,700 square feet and the other one was 975 square feet.
How many seats approximately for those two?
Total 90 seats. So if we use the 5 per 1,000 at 75 square feet at 5 per 1,000, that would be another 14 spaces. As I mentioned, so that would make a requirement of 311 plus 14, or 325. And I said we have 347, right? The other way, the ordinance says 1 per 3 seats, 1 space per 3 seats. 90 seats, that's 30 parking spaces, so 30 plus 311 is 341, we have 347. So if you want to apply a strict parking requirement for the outdoor seating, and it's not always done, but I don't know how you want to interpret it, we have sufficient parking to accommodate the outdoor seating.
Okay, so right now, the existing shopping center operation, there is adequate parking out there, both under the ordinance and in your opinion as professional engineer, to meet the demand, correct?
Yes.
Proposing here these 3 additional patio areas and the approximately 90 seats. The additional spaces we're proposing will be enough to meet any increase of demand associated.
Right, if there is an increase in demand.
If there is.
Right, it all depends how you interpret outdoor seating.
Okay. And you mentioned the access points, the four-way, again, no changes with those. We don't anticipate there to be any. With these proposed changes being that they're largely improvements, there's not going to be really any increase from a traffic perspective for the site.
No. If we were to apply a traffic, usually it's by square footage of a building, and there's no building. There's nothing new. And this is not for a particular use. It's for permitted uses. It's for retail, restaurants, or whatever retail can come in there.
Okay.
We do have to go to the county. We'll be patching some of the asphalt, and some of it's within the county right away, and some of it's within. So we'll need an occupancy permit to patch the asphalt, because that's, we agreed to seal coat and restripe the parking lot when we're done, but there are a couple areas where the pavement's beat up by the driveways, and so we'll be, and that's noted on the plans to replace that.
Now, in anticipation of tonight's meeting, did you have an opportunity to review the board professionals review memo?
Yes, well, we prepared a whole set of plans to address the review memo. Okay.
So if you want, I think the best way to do it would be just to go through some of the comments in here. I can tell you a lot of that we're going to be able to agree to.
If I start on page 5, where we get into general comments, and I guess we can go into waivers and all that stuff afterwards, but I'll tell you the items that we either where testimony was required or number 1 under general comments, just about the operation and the employees and stuff. There's no change, and this is not here for a particular use. We're just here to add some patios. And now a lot of landscaping and lighting and other site improvements, and fix the facade of the building. We'll comply with all the comments up to 14. Oh, where they ask, okay, the question came up in number 14 about the banquet facility and about doing a parking study there. We didn't do that. Again, we're looking at this as all we're doing is adding some patios, and I understand you could add some parking demand, but the center needs help. There's some empty stores there, so there's not a parking problem there right now.
And just to confirm, the banquet hall, it's up and running right now, and the owner issues from a parking perspective relating to that existing ongoing use.
And it's a large banquet hall, but how often it has a capacity of 400 people, but I don't know how often they have 400 people. I don't know, I'm not that many events that have that many people. We get to loading, and I'm at the bottom of page 6, that's 15, 16, and 17. And there, again, no changes to the operation, and we're not doing anything that would impact the operation. There is loading along the back of the building, the large building. The front building, like for example, Dunkin' Donuts comes at night. They either park in the parking spaces or in the driveway because they're quick deliveries.
And there's an argument to be made that by relocating those dumpsters in the rear that are, for lack of a better word, floating right now into designated trash enclosures, it'll actually allow that loading and unloading to operate more smoothly than it likely is right now.
Yes, because spaces, those dumpsters are all over the rear. And I guess that's one of the variances we'll get into. So we move on, the next one. Oh, okay, item 22, and this is mentioned in the waivers and variances section too, about a concrete, oh no, I'm sorry, this is not that yet, we'll get to the other. So there's a concrete sidewalk between the drive-through for the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through lane, and then there's parking opposite that, and then there's a small sidewalk that runs through there. The order boards, some signs, light poles are there, and it was recommended that we remove it, and I talked to our client about it, and pedestrians do use that sidewalk, so we'd rather not remove the sidewalk, especially since part of it's recently been fixed. But because that was, we don't need to remove it because we've compensated. We've compensated for that elsewhere. So that's item 22. Okay. Item
Yeah, just as you go through this, any items we're not specifying to, we'll agree to comply
Right,
with the
we're agreeing to.
recommendations. Okay.
Okay, so we've redesigned the patio, the west patio is now recessed from the parking. There's just a comment about a car impacting the wall, so that's been taken care of. Okay, item 37. This is the one, they recommend a 5-foot sidewalk be placed along Route 35 frontage. All right, so we're asking for a waiver from that, or to not do it. If we have to, he's spending a lot more money than he thought he was going to anyway. But we didn't see the need for it. We don't see it elsewhere up on 34. And a good sign is that you'll see a path worn in the grass, and there was no indication that people have been walking there. So I leave that up to you, but that's something we have not complied with.
And one thing, again, we're somewhat on the pie piece here. At the intersection, as you walk towards that intersection, there are no crosswalks or signals out there, correct?
Correct.
So it's a situation where even for pedestrian traffic to walk towards that, there's really nowhere for them to cross that intersection safely.
Correct. Okay, so the next couple of pages will comply with everything, or we've discussed it. Yes, so we've taken care of the comments. So we only had 4 to discuss.
So anything not specifically discussed here, we'll agree to comply with the board engineer's recommendation.
Yes. And maybe you do the architect.
Well, there's a few architectural comments that I'll address with Mr. Montoro.
Okay. The professionals, do you have any?
You want to go, Tim, or you want me to go? Okay. I'll be quick. Tim's going to cover the variances and everything. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, the applicant appears to have made significant changes to the site plan, which we will review in detail as part of the conformance review process, should the board act favorably. So it looks like a lot of the comments that we had in our review memo have been addressed. The two things regarding the sidewalk along the drive-through, I don't have any objection. Some repairs to that sidewalk, and having used this facility, I think that sidewalk actually does get used to get to the smaller building that fronts on Route 34. So I don't have an objection to not removing that sidewalk. And then with regard to sidewalk along Route 34, again, it's been one of those things where we try to put sidewalk in where we can. I do understand that the applicant's position that for safety reasons, they may not want the sidewalk on Route 34. So it's really up to the board to deliberate. I don't have any strong objection to waiving that requirement either. Other than that, it looks like the applicant is complying with the rest of our comments. I don't have any specific comments. Actually, as I say that, one thing. With regard to the retaining wall, I do appreciate the fact that the applicant will be, wall, and then with your request to extend the wall up to serve as a fence, that's not an uncommon thing. What we would want is to have the board planner and the township planner have some input into the wall facing that faces out to Morristown Road. It's obviously very prominent, and we don't want it to just be a blank concrete wall.
Neither does our client, and.
I wouldn't think that you would.
No.
I wouldn't think you would.
He has a vision, but right now.
So does Vina, and we want to make sure that
Okay.
that is.
So there's a detail on the plan of the wall, and obviously it's along the county, so the county will probably have an input on that.
Perfect.
And then it'll be 6 feet high where the two dumpster enclosures butt up against it.
Okay, perfect.
And since the parking lot slopes, the wall will step.
Right. And while we're talking about the parking, again, one thing, I know I said I'd shut up, I apologize. We do believe a parking variance is required because typically a banquet facility isn't a customary occupant in a retail setting, in a shopping center kind of setting. So to use 5 per 1,000, which is what we use, and it's appropriate for the rest of the center, even the restaurants, I do agree. But a banquet facility is sort of separate. So I think we would calculate that separately. And I think the applicant has given some testimony already with regard to the sufficiency of the parking. So really, I think it's more of I won't say a technicality, but it's a variance that we just needed some testimony. I think the testimony that's been provided is that there is no detriment to the grant of that variance because the facility's been there, it's been operating for all these years, and it's been functional without any parking issues at the site that we're aware of. So I think the testimony has been provided to support a variance, but I believe it's a variance.
And our position is just, it's tough because it's a variance for something that's up there. It's been fully permitted. We've received permits to operate it. So it's up and running, but I understand that if the board professionals are requesting a variance, we feel that there has been justification put on the record because it is up and running and we know the parking's adequate to meet it. But we also would rely on those permits that we received to operate that use at the site.
Yes, and just using using the parking at 1 space per 3 seats, as it happens, and it has a capacity of 400 seats, so I'm told, using the shared parking concept, and that was submitted, the total required would be 346 spaces, not counting the outdoor parking, and we have, with the EV credit, we have 3. So if you use shared parking, we make it, and then whatever parking requirement would be for the outdoor seating. But anyway, so it's still, we're within limits, acceptable limits.
It's functioning, and then the shared parking analysis is usually what's provided to support that variance. So again, you provided the analysis, we reviewed it, we do concur with it, and the testimony's been provided. We're just saying that it is a variance that you should request. Now I'm done.
All right, so I just would concur with some of the comments that Rakesh made about the retaining wall. There's existing landscaping between the wall and Cheesequake Morristown Road that's in pretty bad shape. So if you could look at that and, you need some assistance to determine what's bad. And I mean, like I said, it's pretty, long on the tooth. Wouldn't hurt to.
Yes, as a matter of fact, that was an afterthought. We discussed that, I guess, earlier this week, and, it was, so, yes, some of the landscaping is overgrown, and
It doesn't have to be, all plants. It could be a lot of grass, just to reduce, like switchgrass, ornamental grasses, maybe some shrubs, low-maintenance shrubs thrown in there. I mean, then you won't have to really take care of it. It'll sort of naturalize, it'll reduce
Right.
maintenance, which would probably help you out, and it'll still look nice.
Right, so we haven't put on the plan, but the applicant wants to do that, especially by the driveways, because some of the shrubs can interfere with sight distance. But yes, that it will be done.
So the applicant, it can just, because that's something that we've talked about. So if Madam Chair, we have the applicant sworn in, just to answer some of these questions.
Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Could you please state your name?
Ethan Caravani, E-T-H-A-N, last name K-A-R-A-V-A-N-I.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, Mr. Caravani, if you can just answer that question.
Yeah, so to your concern, so the existing shrubbery has been a nightmare to be able to prune and maintain along Route 34. Along Cheesequake Road. But my remedy to this would be to build the wall and leave about 3 feet of width in the wall to build a masonry landscape box to be able to build shrubbery on top, therefore not obstructing drivers' views, which has also caused accidents, I think, within the last 60 to 90 days at that exit when you're making a right or a left on the northeast corner. Thank you.
Yeah, anything that, and I said shut up too. Anything that enhances safety at those driveways is to work with you to make sure that we can come up with something that's aesthetic and obviously provides the safety.
Yeah, the only caveat I would say is planter boxes. They're like death to most plants, unless you have water and you take care of them. So I could still understand that we have vision problems, sight triangle problems, but I think for the most part, if you could just put it, it's not going to take a lot of width to do ornamental grasses and things in the ground. And I think like switchgrass, it's really drought tolerant. You can hardly kill it, and it spreads. And I think again, we'll work with you on this to just modify it and refine it, but
So that's what we'll do, when we get to that point,
Yeah.
that'll come later on, we'll add some landscaping back there. Or
And
modify.
I'll get to your point about the front, where continuous, I'm not a big continuous person either because it looks like a hedge.
Yeah.
I really haven't had a chance to look at it, the proposed plants, but I like to, intersperse different kinds of evergreens, and deciduous flowering and sort of that thing. So we can work on the types and maybe the arrangement of them, but I'm with you on just breaking it up into different islands. I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Okay, is that it for the professional?
Yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, anyone from the board have any questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Lauer.
I just want to say I concur with what you said about the parking lot. It's in need of help, and the retaining wall is in need of help. The back of the building looks like a graveyard for dumpsters. So that, and you, the four, I think you're proposing 4, is that it?
Well, there's 5. Did I get yeah, I get this one back. Dumpsters back there, so we have, in the enclosure will hold 4, and then up by the driveway off to Route 34, we have room for 2 smaller dumpsters up there. So we have, whatever, we've got the same capacity in trash enclosures now.
Okay. What I wanted to know is, now you're adding on to the existing wall, you're going to replace the existing wall, and then you're going to add on to the height of that, what it is now?
Well, we need a fence.
Yes.
Right, so instead of putting a fence, we'll carry the wall up, and then as our client would like to do something decorative with the wall, which will work with your professionals.
Okay, so if I'm standing on Morristown Road, what
Okay.
height wall would I be looking at,
Right,
approximately,
The highest portion of the wall is about 4 feet.
right now?
Right, yeah. So it would be another 42 inches higher.
Okay.
Okay, so another 3.5 feet, so it would be 7.5 feet, except where the trash enclosure is, it would be another 2
Yeah,
feet higher
okay,
than that.
okay.
Right, but that would be for the 20 feet of the trash enclosure.
Okay.
But the other, as you get to the ends, the wall's only a foot
Yeah.
or 2 high.
Right, okay, thank you.
Okay, yes?
I want to talk about there's a bottleneck.
Is it on now? Yeah, it's on. There's a bottleneck on the west side entrance from 34 going in. There's a barrier there as you enter in on the west side. And cars coming out to exit and cars entering can't make that turn at the same time. So you have to wait in a queue almost to be able to make that turn.
The island in the driveway, I'm not sure what you mean
No,
by
there's not
barrier.
an island in the driveway. The island is at the very beginning, but on the right-hand side, there's that little short curb that sticks out. Now
Yeah.
to make that turn, two vehicles can't make that turn at the same time. So right now, it's not a problem because there's not a lot of activity in that part. But in the future, if you do, there'll be a queue going into there, and maybe people be out into 34 on the northbound side. I found it always a problem entering there.
Yeah, so, it's when you come in, it's a 90-degree turn rather than a radius.
Right.
We did look at that quickly, but one way to do that, if we remove that parking space and instead of this is where you're talking about right here, right? So if we remove
correct,
that
yeah.
parking spaces or try to shift it and put a radius in here, so it's easier for someone coming in to make that right turn. That's what you're talking about?
Yes.
Well, we have more than enough parking, so we could remove one.
Well, you have one parking space extra, right?
Yeah,
You're supposed to have 146, you have 147, you're good.
So we would agree to remove that and allow that more of a turn there.
Yes, I'll make a nice radius.
Thank you.
Anybody else have comments? Yes.
On your wall diagrams here, are you going with an Allen block wall, or are you going with a straight-up concrete?
There's two wall details, which would be for the patios, right? And then the concrete, that detail is for the back wall.
Okay. Was it discussed earlier that it would be pleasing to the eye facing the back one?
Well, what you're...
Instead of a flat wall, someone mentioned?
No, it will either texture it or put some decorations on it, or...
We agree that we'll work with your professionals, whatever their recommendation is, to kind of make that, we don't want it to look like a bare wall back there. And I think that's something that we've talked
No,
about.
he mentioned the lower planter as well.
Yeah, just make it uniform with the rest of the center. If I'm using a certain theme of brick, then I'll do it on the rear wall as well.
In the rear.
Yeah, and there's also another retaining wall which is not being modified with this project on the east side up against the crematorium. And no matter what I do, I'm going to change the old yellow brick that you see on the sides of the structure.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Real quick, the applicant, we sort of went through the general comments, and you guys agreed to the first 13 or whatever. Number 6 really speaks to the condition of the parking lot and curbing and everything. Are you in agreement that there's curbing that's sort of like just broken up that needs to get replaced and repaired and all that? So you're...
Well, he's done some of that already.
Okay, good.
There's some of that, a lot of that has been taken care of, and I walked around, and the rest of it seemed to be okay.
Okay.
And we'll take care of those islands.
Okay, perfect.
I wanted to ask you, because I was around when you first, 40 years ago, however long ago, which I shouldn't admit to. One of the problems was, because of the angle, that they had wanted a big sign so they could put everybody up there on that sign. Are you doing anything about changing that? It's such an...
Yes, that's next.
Oh,
Our
that's
architect
next?
will speak
Oh.
to some of the improvements to the sign.
Okay, because
I
it's
don't do
really
signs.
a distraction, if anything, and I don't think it's helpful in terms of people. And I just want to say I'm really glad you're doing something about it, because it's a really prime spot, and it's just not taking advantage of the area, and I think there, is probably need for some of the facilities that could be placed there in a nicer surrounding. Anyway, okay, so has anybody else got any questions of this wit? Okay, should I open to the public?
Yeah, even though there's no members of
Any-
the public, we technically have to open up. to the public.
Okay, is anybody from the question or have a comment? Seeing no hands, we'll close the public portion on this particular comments.
The next witness is actually going to address the sign. It's our project architect who can speak to the upgrades to the facade. So John, if you can, I think the other mic died, so you're going to have to. So if you could you please?
Let me just swear him in first. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Can you please state your name and spell it?
John Montoro, Montoro.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Montoro, if you could you briefly provide your qualifications to the board?
Yeah, I'm a licensed architect in New Jersey and New York. I've appeared probably before 100 different planning boards throughout the state for about the last 35 years.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Montoro, I'd like to start with the renderings of this site. And I know you have a handout that while you're providing, I can actually hand that out to the members.
Unfortunately, there's only 4 copies of the colored rendering, but then the second and third pages, I have extra copies of.
Okay.
So maybe share.
And are we going to mark this as Exhibit A2?
Yes.
There's 2 renderings on here, so you want to mark it A2 and A3?
Just to confirm, the handout that I just gave is the same that you're testifying.
That's the same drawings that you see, yes.
Okay.
So should I mark these A2 and A3?
Yes, please.
Okay. Oh, you got it? Okay, that's good. Thank you. A2 exhibit is the center looking at the corner of the building next to where the outdoor seating is on the left, which corresponds to the site plan that you see up on the screen there. This rendering was before the changes that were made by Callisto's office. There will be greenery all along the front here from his latest plan, and the patio area has been shrunk for that greenery. There's 60 seats shown. I will hand out also, or we did already, the handout that you see there with the plan of the 2 patios. This patio here shows 60 seats, and the one at Building B shows 30 seats. Callisto's final plan that winds up becoming the exhibit, we will incorporate into our architectural plan so the 2 match. That was one of the comments on the list of the engineer's comments. The plan that you see for those 2 patios has some green areas shown that will be planted and incorporated into the site plan.
If I may just ask, the exhibit or the handout, is this going to be marked at exhibit? Is this A3 or is this A?
That'll be
A4.
Okay.
Okay. And while you're marking it, the next one is a list of, one of the comments was a list of all the existing tenant spaces and their square footages and seating. That's in that package also.
Mark that A5.
A5, correct. So back to A2. When I first came down here to look at the center, I'm sure living here, you see that center every day, and you drive by it and you say, well, there's a center that needs some help. So when I got hired to redesign the center, the idea was to not just give it a new face, not just to take the strip center and make it a new strip center with new finishes, but to really recreate this center. And what I call this is a facade redo. This is what we do. We try to take these centers and make it back to life. Bring a center so that it becomes a people place, exciting, so people come here and the center survives. Unless people come to the center's not going to live no matter what finishes you put on it. So we needed to give identity to the stores. 60s, the whole thing was have a strip center with a covered canopy so nobody gets wet when they get out of the car. You're going to get wet when you get out of the car when you're walking to the center. So if you don't have an umbrella, you're going to be wet anyway. So there's no need for this covered canopy to be a continuous canopy. What we try to do is to give each store its own feel, its own look, and make it so that they have something that they can say, this is my space, but also that people who come to the center know exactly where they're going to, and they look at that store and it gives that store a unique identity. Also, in doing that, is when you do create these different areas, you are able to incorporate different finishes, and each finish has not only its own texture, but its own look, its own color, its own contrast, and also with projected canopies, you're able to get shades and shadows in canopies instead of it just being a flat facade. All these elements and all these little design features make this center away from a strip center with a continuous canopy to something that has a three-dimensional feel. And that was the goal from day one, is to give this center a three-dimensional feel. So with that, going to the next exhibit, A3, are little vignettes of what it's going to feel like when you walk up to these different spaces. So you can see no two are exactly alike. This finish here that you see on this, by the way, on your little plan, you'll see A, B, and C, which corresponds to A, B, and C elevation, so you know where you're looking relative to the whole center. But I brought with me some samples of the finished colors, and you can see these are the actual finished colors that we're planning on using. If you want me, I can hand these out just to feel them. But the idea is to give contrast. In addition to that, in addition to these finishes, will also be some ephes. So you get the contrast of ephes to the wood look, to the slate look, the darker gray to the lighter ephes, to the to the redwood color that you see on the renderings. So the whole idea is to give it a kind of a colorful facade and make it interesting, as well as doing these projected canopies at different areas so that you have three-dimensionality and openness in the front facade. Going to the set of plans that were actually submitted. This is the handout that I just handed you, which is I should mark it here,
Just real quick, those last renderings, just to confirm, I know those are the main building. The building on the island will be completely consistent with that type of
yes,
design.
it's exactly the same finishes. So on A4, there's 2 pages. One is the patio on Building A, and the other is the patio on Building B. And you can see I've laid out the seating on both, and there's 60 seats on the patio of Building A with landscaping around the perimeter, as Callisto had testified to. And on patio for Building B, we have an area for 30 seats. I could go through the plans and the facades and walk everyone through the plans and facades, but I think let's maybe go to the ground sign.
Go to the ground signs. Let's talk about the building mounted signs. I know that was one of the questions
yes.
in the board professionals review memo. Now, the building mounted signs we're showing now are fictitious, just to give an idea as to what they're going to look
I
like.
never like to use the real names of tenants, because what happens if one tenant is not shown on the sign, then all of a sudden they say, well, how come I'm not on there? So, I just may make up some names. The signage that you see, we're not asking for variances at this point. It will not be box signs. That's one thing we're saying. So what you see on this rendering are individual letter signs, no box signs. There's some track-mounted signs, as you can see from the vignettes. So there's possibly track-mounted signs like here, but there are no, and these are individual letters, but so by getting rid of the box signs, you change the building from being a 60s strip to something more modern, something that's interesting. It also gives you the availability to have different letters, different styles of letters, different colors of letters that kind of accentuate it. And sometimes the tenants have backlit letters, which add more interest and more of an upscale feel. So that's what we're trying to do, is to create an upscale feel. And I think signage plays a big point in that. At this point, we're not asking for any variances. It'll be up to the tenants to come back with any variances if they want a larger sign than what's allowed by your ordinance.
So we're proposing all the building-mounted signs to conform to what the ordinance requires.
Correct, unless the tenant comes back and says, I want something different.
Correct.
Okay. With that, I might as well segue right into the ground signs. So, the ground signs 70s. Hold on one second, let me just get to the sheet. Okay, thank you, Callisto. So the top row shows the of the existing signs. There's two different sizes. There's one, the main sign is 17'8" high, and the smaller one is 12'10" high. Based on that, we're replacing the whole sign face. We're not replacing the structure. The only thing we ask, and I think which would match the center and also bring the ground signs up to something that looks a lot better, we've added an 8-inch high crown on top. Because the sign was originally 17'8", 8 inches brings it to 18'4", which creates a variance for the sign. If you don't want us to go for the 4-inch variance, we'll eliminate the crown.
Again, that's just a decorative element.
It's just a decorative element. The sign area does not change. It's just a decorative element, which I think gives it a little bit more of a style, something that's also keeping with the new architecture. So that would be up to the board to decide.
And we're also proposing, again, the name of the Centerstone Plaza.
Yes, the new name would be Centerstone Plaza, but the actual sign area will not change. Just the type of lettering, the type of facing, the colors, and all that will change. Okay, the two low ground signs right now are I don't know what you want to call it, lollipop signs. They're basically falling down. They're on wood posts. We're proposing to put them on, like cultured stone bases, masonry bases, and build them as real ground signs with internal illumination. So it adds safety to the entrances, and you can see exactly where they are, and a little bit larger, so if you're driving, 40, 50 miles an hour, you know where you're going to be turning into. As far as the look and the final look of the signs, I look at what you have there now, especially, I forget which one, but they're like brown. They blend into the trees, they blend into the whole, you really can't see it. So once I think these signs are redone with the proper facings and the trim elements that go around the perimeter that kind of make it stand out, I think it'll become a big addition to this center and helpful for traffic.
Thank you.
Okay. And relative to a couple of other things I'd just like to touch base on is, first of all, the square footage of the center is not changing. Everything is staying the same. The two patios, I've done a lot of centers. When you have outside patios, with that comes umbrellas. With that comes people. with that comes excitement. If people want to be where other people are. Nobody wants to drive into a center. You want to go where other people are going. It's just human nature, okay? When you have colors of umbrellas, you have people dining, it adds interest, fun, and it makes the center a viable center, and it actually creates a sense of streetscape. And that is basically what we've tried to design here, is a streetscape, okay? Something where people can walk, shop, eat, dine, bring their family to, and come back, not just go to, I'm going to the cleaners and that's all I'm doing and getting out of here. We look for the people to shop from one store to the next. That makes him make money. It makes the town have a great place to go. And it also makes the tenants want to stay and get better tenants. That's the key. When you do something like this, you get better tenants. And with better tenants, it makes the center better for the long term. Okay, the colors we talked about, the materials we talked about. You know, we're taking off those canopies. I don't even know how they stood up over all these years, to be honest with you. It's incredible how they built it. I saw the original drawings. But the new facade will basically be built onto the existing facade. So when we do that, you're able to have a place to put the signs where they want to be a little bit higher, so that way the cars, as they're driving by, see the signs, not that they're down here, they see them. And that also is for safety, because people don't always like look at the pylon sign and say, oh, I think I'm going to go to the store. They're looking for the store itself as they're driving by. The entire center, when it's done, it will be phased. One of the questions that was in the must be phased. They'll probably start on the easterly side and work in a couple of phases for building A, and then transpose to building B. There will be pedestrian safety protection that will be incorporated into the work plan, so that anytime there's phasing, you need to have protection for those areas where the work is occurring. As far as the banquet facility, you made a great point that it's like an unusual thing. It really is to have a banquet facility in a shopping center, but and you could say the shared parking analysis and all that. But the reality is that that banquet center is operating at different times than the rest of the center. So it's almost like you have two different opposing things happening at the same time. So the benefits outweigh the detriments on that case. Last point I just want to make is that when you have a center that's new and it's something that is changed, as we've done in the past with other centers, the key is to make it so that it's pedestrian friendly. What Callisto has done and what we've done with the landscaping incorporated into those plaza plans and with the handicap, all that will bring it all up to ADA. So all of a sudden now you have a center that has, when I walk there, I could tell there's some issues with ADA access. That all will be corrected. So not only will you get a new center that looks like a new center, but you'll get one that's ADA compliant. In closing, you like it, and I hope that you vote yes. And thank you.
And Mr. Montour, just one last comment. I'm just looking through here. Some of the discrepancies between Mr. Burton's plan and your plan, you'll address all those.
Yeah, his work was kind of advancing with all the comments that came in. I said, we can't keep up with that. His is going to take precedence. Whatever Callisto puts on his plan, we'll incorporate it into ours, and the two will be jived together to go back in for file.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So just to clarify, these planters on these exhibits that you gave us are going to be incorporated into the site plan?
Yes.
And getting to the signs, we listed as a couple of the signs that needed a variance because one of them, you were increasing the area of the freestanding signs. So
Only though by 4 inches.
no, I'm not talking about It was like a bottom square that you're going to incorporate.
Oh, at the bottom here.
It says on the plan here that I'm looking at that you're not going to change the sign area.
There is, in the bottom there now, there's, I don't know what you would call it, an angled,
Yeah, it's just a blank.
no, it's not, it's blank, but it's not. It's like a awning that's at the bottom, but doesn't have any signage on it.
Right.
So that signage we're putting on there, instead of putting it at the top, we're putting it at the bottom.
Okay, so it's the same area.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, it's approximately 30 square feet, I think, in total, the additional sign area that we're asking for, from what's out there now to what we're
So
proposing.
it is increased. So you're going to need a bulk variance for that. That's all I'm getting.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, all right. And there was one sign that, on the Cheeseboro Road, that you were going to relocate it on, I think that said that on the original plans, or
On the Cheesequake Road?
trees, I'm sorry. Cheeseburger.
I don't know. Yeah, there's one there and one at the other
Yeah,
entrance.
there's two existing signs, and those are proposed to
Morristown
remain.
Road, yeah.
On 34, and then there's one by the entrance on,
No, there's
Morristown Road on the west
there's
side.
3 ground signs on 34.
So I know what you're talking about. There's the sign that says Park Plaza.
Right,
On the west side of Morristown,
Right.
Route 34. And on the east side, there's the Palms Plaza sign, which is not mine. I don't, that's the tenant's sign. I don't know when that was installed, how they ever got a variance for that sign.
Morristown Road.
Oh, Morristown, there's just
On the
two,
west-
there's one
the
wooden
west
sign on
entrance.
each.
There's 2 little
talking about.
lollipop signs.
By 4 pylons.
4x4, right. That's the lollipop signs I was talking about. That's these little guys.
Right.
Okay.
So you're just going to reface them? 'Cause they
No, we're actually building a foundation for them. They're on like 4x4 posts.
Right, so you're going to replace
We're gonna
base
re-
with a new
we're
sign.
go- We're going to put a foundation with cultured stone and then put a 6-foot high and with a 6-inch crown by a 4-foot wide panel, internally illuminated.
And my only point is it looks like it encroaches into, where you're not supposed to have it. It's a little bit closer to the right of way. You're supposed to be 10 feet, I don't know.
You want to move it
Looks like it's
back?
right
Come
there.
move it back.
Unless you're going to relocate it.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll move it back away from the
So
road.
then that'll get rid of that variance. Okay.
These things I can lift them up and take them out.
Yeah. Right. So I think, are you going to give the testimony on the variances that are requested?
No,
or required?
no, the variances would be Callisto.
Yeah, like the trash enclosures, I mean,
Right, we'll go over that. We wanted to get the rest of this in.
okay, all right.
Monday and stuff.
That's all for me.
Thank you.
I don't have anything for the applicant's architect, Madam Chair.
Yes? I'm done. You're done?
Keep promising.
Okay. Anybody from the board? Questions, comments?
I have a question. The west end of the building A, it says Brick Garden Restaurant. Is that currently a restaurant?
It's currently, I believe, a furnace, the one at the western end.
Oh, the old Homeline furniture?
Yeah, it's vacant currently.
So now you have a 60-seat outdoor patio. Is that going to be used for outdoor dining in the future if that does become a restaurant, or is that strictly going to be a patio?
So it's going to be used for outdoor dining, depending on the tenant use. So there was a tenant who came in who got rejected. It was going to be another banquet hall, believe it or not. And they were going to use that as I was going to allow them to, if they were able to obtain permits and a variance to do so, to put up a privacy fence over there. And because we're adding the means of egress on each end of the building, to that, and that would be their sort of private rentable space. But as of right now, it's just going to be a dining patio because now we're getting closer and closer to this renovation. We're only looking for food service tenants.
So, Rakesh, does this change the parking numbers and future?
No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to create a problem in the future that we created tonight by approving that with the number of seats, so.
Yeah, so the applicant actually did provide some testimony on that earlier, and the parking study also goes into that the amount of parking actually on site is sufficient. If you were to look at the Palms catering as retail, these seats actually would still comply, and the ordinance requirement would be met. What we're saying is that the catering should count as one seat for three patrons, so that kicks you into a variance kind of condition. But the applicant has provided a parking study and testimony that says that the parking is sufficient for that, including the outdoor seating.
So because I was looking at the one chart and it specifies like, this particular place has 35 seats, 52 seats, so that restaurant, say that had 40 seats inside.
Right.
And then now we had 60 outside, they're still sufficient.
Correct. That's what the study, parking study says. I tend to concur because of the one of the benefits of centers like this, and you all know this, right? Because you've all been on the board for a while. That when you have multiple uses, you get that offsetting peaks, right? The Palms catering peaks in the evenings, and some of the other at that point. So you get the sharing of that parking and all that. So you kind of want that efficiency because you don't want to overpark a site and have a parking lot that's designed for all these uses that don't peak at different times, and you have and then the site's overparked. And
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure that we were considering everything.
Absolutely. It's a great question.
Don't forget too, that when you have outdoor seating, it's not like you have 35 seats inside and then you have another 35 people eating outside. People go sit outside when it's a nice night. They're not going to sit outside when it's, 100 degrees out, and not going to sit outside when it's 10 degrees out. So, usually it adds some seating to the overall restaurant seating, but it doesn't add double.
It's not 100. There's not 100% usage of outdoor and indoor, and that tends to be the case, unless it's a really, really popular restaurant, in which case that does happen, I guess. But
that's all I have.
Also, if it is sort of located at one end, that it could be just used by theoretically anybody, or, somebody that's getting something to eat from one of the other places, or just.
Yes, it's very possible that it could just be open to the entire center
neighborhood.
as well, that if you get down the street, you can walk over there and eat your lunch
Right.
in there. That's also a possibility.
Yeah.
Right now, it would be because the restaurant doesn't exist.
Correct. Yep.
Gotcha.
And that would most likely be the case for the patio behind building, the smaller building.
Yes, yep.
Because you'll have two restaurants.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have any questions, or? Yes.
Is it your intention in the future to open that western wall up on the west side to egress and access to a future restaurant? It does show on the plans that on the west end, there will be a door to that patio from the building. And then there's a sidewalk that goes to the parking lot. So yes, that could be the entrance or There will exit. be egress and
Yes.
entrance to that eating area on that west side.
Right, in addition to a door along the sidewalk in front of the building, yes.
Plans show that, yes.
You're providing windows also there?
Yes.
Yes.
I see, okay.
On the
And
rendering. You can see the rendering.
It's on the floor.
And the banquet facility, which seems like over the years have taken up more and more space, which is a great thing, I'm sure, for the owners. They keep eating up space. Is that going to be separated out from the rest of the plaza and denoted in some features of, the structure, finishes?
So it'll take on the same look as the rest of the architectural design of.
But as John had testified to, there's going to be variation in facades, so it would have a different facade.
So the bank facility may have 2 or 3 different facades at the front of it?
As of right now, it does. It has like a step in it, and it's the same color, it's just that it's not one continuous facade.
What do you plan?
Yeah, it's too far down on the rendering, but the bank, it's going to be broken up, yes.
It will be broken?
Yes.
Okay.
And in answer to your question about what happens at the design that you see in the renderings also wraps around the corners. So if you look at PB 2.4 in the set, you'll see that we've brought the building around to the back. And on the side elevation, there's doors to.
What about lighting on the patios?
There'll be mounted on the building lights that shine on the patio.
So no separate standing lighting?
No, we don't have that planned. There's no lights on the patio, right, Callisto?
No.
No. But I mean, the building will be like 25 feet high, so you could have a couple lights on the building, they'll shine down on the patio. Should be more than enough, especially with LED lighting.
Yeah, there are wall lights on the side of the building.
Will those same wall lights be in the front facade also, under the awning?
We have different lights. We have different lights. There's lights underneath the projected canopies that shine down, but there's also lights up and down light, like sconces on the building that shoot light up the building and light down to the sidewalk.
And you're changing the elevation of that, that's going to be a restaurant? Looks like it's taller than the rest? I don't have that.
This is what you're looking at as far as the, oops.
Johnny's coming.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yep. So the restaurant, here's the patio, here's the corner restaurant. Okay, so we're actually, where the roof line presently is right about there, right about where the sign is. We're raising the parapet up, putting the sign up there, and then there'll be doors coming out the side, as you can see here, onto the patio.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Yes.
Just one thing, I drive past that probably almost every day at this point. I think it looks great. It does need an upgrade. If it's 30, 40 years old, it does its age. And, I think it looks wonderful, and, thank you for investing in the town. We appreciate it. I think it will bring a lot to that, because I've seen over the years, that corner property was a furniture place, it was a carpet place. It's been a number of different things over the years. And I think the redesign and kind of like restructuring it will actually bring some economic development. So, I like the plan, and I thank you for investing.
Anybody else? Nope. Yeah, I would just like to reiterate, it would be really nice to see that come alive again. I mean, so the signage again, I didn't quite get what you're.
So.
I mean, are you having another great big sign with all the names of the?
Well, what happens is that we show, different
Yeah, on the
names, right?
facades,
Or
yeah.
we'll call it fictitious. I'm sitting in bed, I think of names, that's what happens, I put them on the drawings. But the sizes will, as we're stating now, will meet your ordinance. If a specific tenant comes in and says, I'm renting, 8,000 square feet and I want a bigger sign, they'll come before this board to get that approval
Oh, okay.
separately.
So we would have.
Yes.
So the relief that you need right now for the signage is what's written in our report, which is they did the additional sign area for that one awning, which isn't a sign, you're putting a sign copy there.
Right.
So you need the additional area there. The height to add the crown, which
yes.
I think the
4
variance,
inches.
yeah, it's a 4-inch deviation, and I think the justification for that variance is aesthetics. For a C2 variance, you're allowed to consider aesthetics as a positive criteria. Negative is that it's a fairly large sign, and a 4-inch deviation isn't something that's going to be too onerous. So the aesthetic benefit, I think, outweighs the negative of the height deviation. What's the other?
The setback on the one.
And the setback, which they agreed to
We're gonna
not,
remove
not
it.
have, so you
So that
don't,
goes
you don't
away.
need that.
Yep.
So that's the deviation, Madam Chair, as far as what the board's being asked to approve tonight.
Okay, any questions? All right. Then we'll open it to the public. Is there anyone in the public that has any comment? Seeing no hands? Do you have anything else to add? Or,
I would only add, there's a few existing nonconformities that I'm not sure if the board wants to flag them as variances. I know, for example, the trash enclosures, they can't be in the front. Now, we have frontage along two roads. They're in the front now. Technically, they will be in the front as part of it, but it's an existing nonconforming condition that is just going to remain.
Well, Madam Chair, if I may, I think what we should probably do is, because I don't think we've done it yet, is run through what all the numerous variances that are being requested, with regard specifically, and we can go through each one individually, and probably best to just go through the report, ones listed in the report. But with, just to answer your question, because you raised the trash enclosures, it's my opinion, as the board attorney, that we should include that as the variances, because while it is an existing condition, you are changing the location, you're now putting in an enclosure, so it is now a new kind of structure, for lack of a better term. So, while you're here getting approvals, if it's granted by the board, it would be my recommendation that you request that as well.
So running through this list, item 1, and this is on page 3. The minimum landscape area ratio is required to be 0.4. Right now, it's 0.3. I'm sorry, it's 0.13. So it's considerably less, and we're not reducing it. As a result of the changes, we're actually increasing the landscaping, so it's almost 1.14. But that's an existing nonconformity that's being changed. 2, where the sidewalk is required along the highway frontage. And we say that's an existing nonconformity, and we discussed it, that we'd rather not build it.
Yeah. And again,
Your justification, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and again, the justification for that really, and Callisto, I'm going to hand it off to
You go ahead, you could say it, and I'll say yes.
There's operational concerns here that really, it's not a site that has high pedestrian traffic. To encourage it because there's no adjacent high walk. There's really not the infrastructure for pedestrians at these intersections here. So it'd be a situation where there's a safety concern with allowing pedestrians to go out and try to walk
Correct.
the two streets here.
Right.
I would just add that the applicant's spending a lot of money on improvements within the site, which is a much better use of the money than building a sidewalk that nobody's going to use.
Right. Number 3, that's where we talked about trash closures in the front yard. So we have them on both streets. Right. Number 4, maximum front yard setback from all roadways is 50 feet. Well, not much we could do about that. That exists long before this ordinance was written. So we have that. That's an existing nonconformity. Okay, item 5, where we talk about, and I think we've complying with this. Okay, we go 5A, it says refuse areas shall be provided with 6-foot-high screens, and we have that already, so that's not a variance.
Well, on the side, actually, technically, you're supposed to have it on the sides and in the.
Well, no, the wall, it's a 6-foot-high wall
Yeah,
all
but on the
around.
sides of it, you have parking stalls.
Yes, oh, you wanted landscaping there?
Well, that's what the ordinance.
Okay, that's
So
what you meant.
Technically, you're in need of variance.
Okay, so that's, 5A would be a variance for not having landscaping on the sides of the trash enclosures. And 5B, a 15-foot wide landscape buffer along the street right-of-way. We have that along Route 34. We only have about 8 or 9 feet along Morristown Road, and if we were to increase it, we'd lose a lot of parking. So it's an existing nonconformity. And 5C, okay, buffers shall be planted, and I think this is where we've now addressed that. So 5C is no longer an issue because we put landscaping all along the Route 34 frontage.
I think all of 6 you've addressed as well. So
Yes, we've addressed all of 6. Trees every 40 feet, yes, all of 6 is addressed. So item 7. Okay, that's the one we just talked about, was the 3 freestanding signs.
And we're not changing that number, but
It's
if
an existing non-conforming.
any change to the area, if that triggers the need for it, we'll request that relief.
And
Number 8.
we've talked about, again, that's the sign.
That's the bulk, that's the area.
9 goes away because you're going to move it.
Yeah, we're moving it.
And then 10,
Talked about, and then 11 is just the parking variance.
and then waivers, there's curb radii on there.
Well, any new curbs, everything will have a 5-foot radius or greater, so we comply.
That goes away.
So that goes away. And the backup area, there's 2 dead-end aisles on the west side of the parking lot. That's existing. I guess the ordinance requires a 10-foot backup, but we're not touching them, and they exist. So I don't know if you need a waiver for that, but
It's a design waiver, but
And it's
ju-
existing.
a justified design waiver because
Right. It's
we'd rather
existing.
have you have that extra parking.
okay. And that addresses all of them.
That's it? Okay. All right. Do you have anything more to?
For their time and attention and patience. Obviously, this was somewhat of a lengthier application for really somewhat minor site improvements, but I think it's a testament to the history of this site, how long it's been there, some of these existing non-conforming conditions that the applicant is trying to address. And again, it's a project that we're very excited about, that we think is going to be a real asset to the community, and we look forward to moving forward with it. And again, I thank you for your time and attention here tonight.
Actually, Madam Chair, before we move into summary, there was one other report, I don't know if it was addressed or not, from the fire department or the fire official regarding the site barriers, vehicle impact protection. It was dated September 19th, 2023. I just wanted to, as brought up in the last application, I don't want to forget about not addressing it.
Oh, okay. The patio on the east side of the building, 6-inch bollards along the curb line. I guess that's the impact protection that's referred to in this letter. And we also have bollards along the patio behind the front building, so I call that the south patio. The other patio doesn't need it because the wall's set back 4 feet from the curb, and the patio is elevated. So we do have impact protection for the open areas.
We believe we've addressed these, but we'll agree as a condition that we'll get a final approval letter from the fire marshal.
Do you want to?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. A vote in favor of this application would be granting the requested relief, being a major preliminary and final site plan application with variance relief, I'm not going to repeat all those, but just went through the list that was identified in the board's professionals' reports as to which variances and waivers are required. There was some conditions and discussion in addition to the standard conditions, such as compliance with the board professionals' reports as modified through testimony. One of those conditions was that the applicant will agree to reasonably work with the township professionals with regard to the facade of the retaining wall that's being extended in lieu of a fence. There was also a condition that the applicant will agree to reasonably work with the township professionals with regard to the landscaping to be placed in or around that retaining wall up in by which road was that? That was the Cheesecake Morristown Road. Agree to look into removing the removing the one parking space by the entrance from Route 31 to provide Route 34 to provide a larger turning radius.
That's the west entrance.
The west entrance, thank you.
And just lastly, well, it's part of one of the general conditions is that the applicant just agreed to, as a condition of approval, to work with the fire official to comply and address the concerns raised in this report. And that's what I have as conditions.
Okay. We have a motion,
I'll move it.
moved by Mr. De Palma. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Tracy. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Mr. Lauer?
Yes.
Mr. Renner?
Yes.
Mr. Petty?
Yes.
Mr. McIsaac?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Kenton.
Yes, and I wish you good luck. I think it's long overdue, and it will be very welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the board.
No, I have one of those. I have, thank you, though. That helps me with the resolution. I appreciate that.
Don't let Alan leave. On the flag.
As long as I get these renovations. As long as I get these renovations. So.
It shows control and 516 on the bottom, but when I was 516.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, it's not, yeah.
Be a little small.
Oh, sorry. We're discussing the patio. Okay. Is there any other business anybody has, or any comments? Or otherwise, if we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Mr. Lauer, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded. Stanley, do we need a roll call?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.